Gates, huh?
Bill Gates Jr. And it's called Black Latin America. I don't know if you've seen it. It was on PBS. It's a 4-part series.
Black Latin America.
Black in Latin America.
In Latin America.
Yeah, and so he goes to Dominican Republic, Haiti, just because of that weird connection that they have. He goes to Mexico and Peru. He goes to Brazil, and he goes to Cuba. And the thing that really blew my mind, because I had no idea about this, that Mexico imported more slaves than the United States. And so that means basically,
I could see that.
Basically, if you DNA tested majority of Mexicans, they have some African blood, even though they completely reject the fact that they're black. So for this one little town down by Veracruz that still say, oh yeah, we're black. But it was crazy because La Bamba is an Angolan song.
Really?
Yeah, it blew my mind. I was like, that's insane. And like the whole Fandango music is influenced by African rhythms, and apparently Veracruz used to be considered a black town because there were so many Africans there. And it's just that the relationship that the Spanish had with the African slaves, because it was a plantation sugar culture thing down there. It caused them to reject their blackness. The first, I didn't know this either, the first black president of a independent republic was Guerrero, who they called Negro Guerrero, in Mexico in 1872.
Wow.
I blew my freaking mind. And they show the poster picture of him, like the painted picture, dude's black, too big. But if you talk to any Mexican here or there, they have no connection, which explains why there's such a huge range of skin tones in the Mexican culture. I always thought it was due to the Native American, but
I would think of it. Yeah, of course I would think that the Mayan cultures or whatever.
No,
there's a huge black Pan-African.
It's all the African slaves that came that were But the thing is, like, there were so few.
So we're talking about between
Spanish women.
Even earlier, because they were coming onto the west side, right? So we're talking about from late 1500s until the late 1800s.
Until 1800s. Yeah, they apparently there were like several really prominent African or mestizo leaders that were responsible for the Mexican independence from Spain. Like, was it Hidalgo, the guy who did El Grito, was part African.
Wow.
Yeah, this is huge thing that they completely. But that was pretty much the crux of the documentary, the series, was how
influence of African culture on these Latin.
Yeah, so all of these Latin countries that were settled by the Spaniards and brought in all these slaves, and even though the Africans or the mulatto people played a huge part in the formation of their nation, all these countries whitewash it. If you look, and it was crazy because in the Dominican Republic, where nobody's white.
All right. So
let's take
a time out there. Let's take a time out there.
Yeah.
Okay, because this parallels with a ton of things. Lighter skin in India makes you more better. Lighter skin in all these places. So now we're talking about it being much older than the modern era.
Yeah.
And we're talking about it. What I want to know is why. Why is it that the favoring the lighter skin, was it to appeal to people of lighter skin? Do you see what I'm getting at?
Well,
is it to appeal to the empire?
Well,
is it because you want the empire?
Yeah.
Basically, the empire, the Spanish and the Portuguese and the British and the French and the Dutch, they're all fair, and so are all these places do it because the more you do that, the more you're appeasing the empire.
The more that you're appeasing the United States empire, because that's what it was. It was.
Well, here, yes.
Yeah. Well, no.
Right? It's all about appeasing.
All those Caribbean nations, like the Dominican Republic, Mexico, all of those things back in the. In the beginning of the 20th century, the United States was doing its manifest destiny,
right,
and so for them to have dealings with the United States or to get the support or the money, you had to
Right.
you couldn't have all these black people
Right.
in charge because they would, like, one of the things they were talking about how in the Dominican Republic what they did was, when after they had the revolution and they became an independent state, the United States came down to protect their interest. So they sent in the U.S. Marines that occupied there for like a couple decades.
Wow.
And so what they sent was all of these white Jim Crow Southern military dudes down to the Dominican Republic to run the country. And so that had a huge influence on how Dominicans view themselves as not black. Not to mention there was a reaction because Haiti occupied the Dominican Republic for a couple decades also. And when they're talking about the independence of the Dominican Republic,
that's French. So places that were these are now the difference here is that the ones that they're bringing over from Africa are from one particular group, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the Haiti one is because they're the French.
Yeah.
And they're going to bring places where they have French slaves. So all their slaves are going to speak French.
Yeah.
And this is going to be because they're from another, right?
Yeah,
That's
well,
really the distinction here.
Yeah.
They're moving along with the language trope is what's going on.
Yeah,
right?
well, also the problem was because the Haitians were the first slave rebellion that worked.
Right,
and,
correct.
and so
that's right, correct.
And so the Haitians had embraced their Africanness. And so it was like, what so it was really, really stark contrast. If you look at the statues that were in the Dominican Republic of their great leaders, and you look at the statues in Haiti of their great leaders, both of who are black, all of the statues in the Dominican Republic all look white.
Wow.
And all the ones in Haiti have very distinct African features because they're proud of that. And that's why the Dominican Republic rejected so much of that blackness, because it was a rejection of how poorly the Haitians, when they were empowered, treated them. And that was the other thing. A lot of them didn't want to have that connection with Africa because they were afraid that the United States would see it as a threat of another slave rebellion.
Right.
And they didn't, the United States could not have all of those black people in power running a republic, because the United States refused to acknowledge Haiti as a state until years until they had the dictator that we stuck in. It's crazy.
That's amazing.
I know.
And the program is called what again?
Black in Latin America.
Black in Latin America.
There's some criticism on Gates about his treatment of Cuba. There's some like I said, there's some criticism about how he kind of he gave Cuba a huge pass on a lot of their stuff, but it's tough to make a documentary about, because it was made before we opened the before the trade got opened up, so he was relying on the beneficence of the Cuban government to be able to do this, so he had to tone it down a little bit.
Henry Louis Gates, Black in Latin America.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah, it's great. It's on, I want to say, Netflix or Amazon.
Okay.
That's what I'm watching. There's another one on slavery that I haven't watched, Slavery in the United States, which is pretty good.
Yeah, on this program we've been talking about race, and the one that I did this one called Discussion on Race. I'll send it to you. You can look at it. It's about 20 minutes long, and it was last Friday. And it was the only other time I had another person here.
Oh, watch that one.
Yeah, and so that bit where we were talking about, I sent it to, because he told me that I should send it to white people, I sent it to all, quote, white friends of mine, and there was like huge clapback from two of them, super mad. And they were like trying to text me on the phone, and I wrote back, there's a comment thing at the bottom of all YouTube videos, and you can also make a reply. And they were mad, and I'm like, stop texting me, this is a program, like just reply on the program.
Yeah.
But it was very intense how once they realized that they had been triggered, the term is triggered now that they all use, right?
Yeah.
These particular white conservatives had been triggered by this 20-minute conversation. I think they probably went back and looked at it again and went, wait, what? Because there's nothing truly offensive there.
It was just a good discussion.
But no one says this in the medium, right? We don't discuss. That's the problem.
That's the hugest problem, because everyone, once we had the black president, who wasn't really black, he was half black.
Right.
Now we're going
they said we're beyond race.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so now we're beyond race.
Yeah. So everybody got to pat themselves on the back and feel good about, oh yeah, well, we don't have a problem. hey, we're good, man. Cool, everything's cool. Race is not a problem in the United States anymore.
Post-racial society, baby.
Yeah.
Unbelievable what a
But
cover
then,
that was.
you know,
Yeah, that's
but
just
then-
a huge fake cover, right?
Yeah.
So,
Well, you know, it made everybody feel good about themselves. You know, it's like, all right, well, it's okay for me to have these, these sort of, I don't want to say racist, but bigoted thoughts, because it's obvious I'm not racist because we have a black president.
Yeah.
And so,
well, a better term is prejudiced, I think. That's what
Yeah.
my buddy was telling me. So I was like, I'm having these issues where I'm getting increasingly, as the years pass, George W. Bush, the fiasco, and then the thing you and I are agreeing to, that Obama's really just a slim cover on a stupid thing, and now Trump. I'm having real feelings of prejudice against white folk. Not all white folk, but I'm now seeing things that are being revealed by their willingness to let them say whatever they want now.
Yeah.
The white supremacy is just openly happening.
Yeah.
That I'm having real prejudice against white folk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we were discussing that the other day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So now I would like to take it to the level of, I don't know how to... I know a lot of people who won't even say I'm white. If I say, okay, you're a white friend of mine, but just saying that is offensive to them.
Well, they find
Because it means I'm categorizing.
Yes. And
But they categorize constantly.
Oh,
So the whole tank is built on categories made by one group that's in the thing with us. And when we say, well, okay, well then you call us all this one, then we'll call you white. No, you don't get to call that. You're being racist.
Yeah.
Which is absurd, right? That notion.
It's
so just the fact that I haven't been able to call them white is an issue.
Yeah. Well, I really don't.
I would say.
I remember back when we were at UT, and because that was during the 80s, the mid to late 80s, when universities realized that, wow, we're really white, and unless we want to get sued, we really need to have some diversity. And so a lot of colleges, good or bad, really went on this kick to
empower affirmative action.
Yeah, empower and just and recruit people of color. I was one of them. I had great scores. I was smart. If I was white, I could have gone to any college I wanted.
Right.
It wasn't like because I was black I got into UT.
Yeah.
It's like I graduated 7th in my class. I was in the top 1% of the high schoolers in the state of Texas.
Right.
So if I was white, I was getting into UT anyway. But everybody saw that. Oh well, you got it because you're black. I get it black. I got to feel smart. And that's the thing. White people have had that privilege so long that they think that that they're the only ones that can do it. It's like, oh yeah, well we're smart, and it's an anomaly if a black man's smart, or a brown man's smart, or a yellow man's smart. It's like it's.
But it's all flipped now.
Because
now it's really clear that the Americans are becoming dumber and dumber, and the smarter people are in China, and by far the smartest people are in China. They're ridiculous. And in other places, we're not the smartest. Now we're just like clinging to something that we're the greatest in the world, we're the greatest in the world, we're the greatest in the world, and it's just
it's like
making ourselves dumber every day.
If you live your life being told that your mediocrity is the creme de la creme, why on God's name would you change it? It's like you have no reason to work hard and get better. Why would I need to work hard to get better? I have everything.
Okay, so let's talk. Okay, then I want to divert. You mind? Tell me if you have something you want to talk about.
Yeah.
I like what we're doing because this makes it happen. Because you and I are the same age. So that kid was 30 years younger than me.
Yeah.
And I was trying to do a thing the other day, and I'm like, this is just I don't know how this is gonna work. But so it did become more superficial.
Yeah.
But you and I are the same age, and we've gone through the transition of the United States that we just watched, or watching, and we're in midlife, and we're going, what? I think it's much more lucid to us.
Yeah.
And so the other day on the show, or on the NonShow, I was thinking about how in '99, in '98, even a little bit in 2000, I felt way better about the United States of America as a concept than I do right now, because in '98 and '99, before the violent events of 9/11, and then the way the millennium became all about security, and before that, and before the 2000, which was just this noisy, obnoxious thing, it was right that little window. And academics were talking really straight ahead about, there was this guy, Ronald Takaki at the University of California, Berkeley, wrote A Different Mirror. You should check out that book. It's an amazing book about how he starts the book by saying, all right, let's talk about Shakespeare. Caliban is the black man. The fucking animal thing is the black man. And these guys are going in boats over in the tumultuous... This is basically the tale of their fucking manifest destiny. That was being published. We were talking about it in public. So in our lifetimes, I feel like that was the kind of a peak time for being able to really tell people, yeah, and there were white folk jumping on board going, yeah, you're right, we did genocide the natives, yeah you're right, let's start fixing shit. It felt way more that way.
Yeah.
I'm asking you, did you feel that way? Say, think about it honestly. I had that thought and I thought, wait, maybe I'm not being honest, maybe I'm painting the past with a brush. But no, I could say all kinds of shit in 98 and 99 and have 10 white people agree with me. And if I said those same things in 2018, they'll all be real quiet, or maybe nobody will say anything, or maybe one person will say, hey, this is the greatest country in the world, you really gotta there's some retarded shit back. In 2018, that's kind of what I feel like happened. By the way, we're listening to sound effects, so if there's sound effects that go off, you gotta just deal with it.
And
so the question is, do you think that's the case, or am I...
Well, in that period, that 3-year, 4-year period, I'll input 95 in there.
Oh, because you were out of the country.
No, I was in Portland. Well, technically I was out of the country. Because, I was basically living... Portland is basically one of the whitest cities in the United States. And I moved there in 95, and I was thrust into this whole another backward culture thought of how race is. Because I grew up, like I said, here in Texas.
Which is one of those. Which is a backward idea. Trust me.
It's the Bible Belt. My mom is from Alabama. My dad is from Palatka, Florida. I spent every summer up until age 12, when I started making the Little League All-Star team, going to Alabama, spending the whole summer in Birmingham, Alabama, which is like the middle of where all the cradle of the civil rights movement. My mom grew up in it. The whole
time. Birmingham, sure.
Yeah. And, my dad's from this little podunk town. We used to go visit his mom.
Is that Panhandle? Paloka?
No, it's Palatka. It's right in the middle.
Oh, really?
It's a little nothing town in the middle of nowhere and nothing in Florida. But, and so I spent a lot of time going to Mississippi, Louisiana, Georgia, all of that. Tennessee, Kentucky, we spent time. And we're talking the 70s and the 80s when people had no concept of race relations. It was like there was them and there was us.
Yeah, right. Totally.
That's how it was.
Yeah.
And so I grew up in this weird sort of amalgamation of intolerance, but knowledgeable intolerance. It's like, okay, well, we really don't like other people, but we know that they're there, and so we need to figure out a way to live with them. We don't necessarily need our daughters to marry them, but we're not going to kick them out because they're different colors. It's like, okay, we're just going to figure how this out. And so people were working on figuring that out. It was always getting better, always got better. Never went back. Then I moved to Portland, Oregon, which was completely divorced from the rest of the country. That's what people don't realize. The United States is such a huge country. When you have these little pockets of isolation, especially when it's homogenous the way Portland, Oregon was, I actually started to encounter racism and backward thinking and neo-Nazism, and because neo-Nazis were huge.
Yeah, Spokane.
Yeah.
All that area.
In the 90s,
Idaho, the northern Idaho.
Yeah. Well, in the 90s, there was that huge case where an Ethiopian student was beaten to death outside his house in Portland, Oregon. Okay, I know some of those dudes. I met some of those dudes.
Wow.
They had, the thing is, they were, at that point, there was such a small percentage of people of color living in Portland, Oregon, that they were never really a threat to anyone's job, anyone's lifestyle, anyone. It was just that, we're so divorced from reality, and we're dealing with this ideological mindset through a weird filter. It's like when Europeans deal with rockabilly. It's like, they're taking something from America, but pulling it through their, this weird filtered view, an idealized view of what it is, and that's what they did with neo-Nazism. There's huge, they thought it was like, oh well, it's just because, white pride. It's like, no, it's not white pride, it's ignorance. You don't know it because you're so far removed from the rest of the world, living in your little isolationist little backwood watered town, that they never really, they couldn't figure out how to grow. They weren't going along with the rest of the country in trying to make themselves more tolerant.
Right. I want to take two quick timeouts. First timeout is, so you jumped from being in that Birmingham situation, cradle of the soul, and seeing growth all the time, to this time in the 90s. But we skipped the part we talked about earlier, but would you say that same thing was happening in Austin in the 80s, that you felt also that people were trying to get better?
Yeah.
Me too, I would say that.
Yeah, it was a good time. It was a good time. I got on a tangent, but I meant to get back.
No, I'm not worried about that. I'm saying, let's jump back. But then you're saying, so it was a real deal for you. It's going further to the west. We're seeing this in Orice's take, right? So he says, all right, well, now I'm in Austin, and even in Austin, there's that desire, and I can attest to this because I feel this too, that they were trying to make things better. There was conversation. And now you leapfrog to this homogenous little thing that you're talking about. And now the second thing, before you start again, you can pick up wherever you want. I'm going to go ahead and source check what he's talking about. The man's name was Mulugeta Sirah. October 21st, 1960 to November 13th, 1988. So he was 28 years old. He was an Ethiopian student who went to the United States to attend college. Sirah was killed in November of 1988 at age 28 in Portland, Oregon by 3 white supremacists. His father and son successfully filed a civil lawsuit against the killers and an affiliated organization, holding them liable for the murder. So this is you can read about him, I'm just giving you the wiki, but you can read about the case that Orice was referring to. So let's pick back up where you were. So now you've had this sudden thing happen and you're realizing, were you realizing that about all of America at the time too?
Well, no,
were you feeling like, I thought this was going to be like Austin?
Well, I did. When I went to go visit, when I decided to move to Portland, I went during the summertime. I just graduated college. I was like, I'm gonna go visit, just hang out, see. I went on the West Coast, went to San Francisco, Seattle, and Portland. And in the summertime, Portland was this cool little town, and I didn't know that. That's great.
Listen to sound effects. You don't mind, right?
No.
It's weird because suddenly it changes the whole context.
Yeah.
Of what
You don't realize how centralized Portland is. Portland's it was like when I moved to Chile, it's like everything revolved around Santiago. In Oregon, everything revolves around Portland. Portland is that one little jewel, one little nugget of open and free thought. But not all of Portland. There's a certain area, Portland's divided into quadrants because it was laid out quite well as a city. But there's the northwest quadrant and there's the southwest quadrant, and it's close around downtown. And all the all of the numbered streets go one way and named streets go this way. And in Portland, Oregon, about 50th Street, the other side of 50th Street is where it got weird. If you're below 50th, because it goes if you're going south, you just run out of Portland. You ended up going toward Eugene. But when you go north, there at 50th Street is that's where that dude lived. He lived on the other side. He didn't live if he lived in that area, there was no problem. It was like being in Austin in the 80s. You had that one little space around the university. It was cool, man. You went outside that,
right?
You were putting your life in danger.
Yeah. Or even in those days, I can remember how I saw no white people east of 35. If I went east of 35, it was because they were going to one taco spot, but they would be right by the freeway, and that was it. But you wouldn't see people at friends of mine would invite me to go over there. The minute you got over there, there were no white people.
I didn't feel comfortable
at all.
I wouldn't feel comfortable because I was a smart enough college boy. They didn't want you over there. But in Portland,
no, I went to pick up weed.
But in Portland, living in the if you left, it's because I was only if you wanted to get underwear, you had to go to Walmart. That's the only place you had to go because they didn't have one in town because all the hippies wouldn't let it. So you had to go out there to the Townieville.
The hippies wouldn't let it.
And it was dangerous.
Yeah.
It's like you ride the bus, you're taking the bus, and and there's just all these. Next thing you know, all these dudes with KKK patches and
Sitting right
and
next
shake
to you.
heads. And it's like you were uncomfortable. You went in, you got out, you didn't hang around there. And you most definitely didn't go at night.
Right.
You know, and so that was weird because I was expecting it to be like the experience I had during the summer. That one little, because I was down in that little cool, groovy place where everybody was doing their thing, and everybody loves everybody. Because and it's like, because no Portlanders live there. It's all people from California. All these expats live in that area. You know, nobody's from Portland there. All people from Portland live on the other side of 50.
Which is now what every place is,
Yeah.
because of this gentrification. They've done that to SF, they've done that to Brooklyn, they've done that to Oakland, they've done that. Now what's happened? I'm not sure who the they is here. Maybe I'm part of the they, but I'm just saying that thing that you're describing, the expats, have done that now to all of the places. So you can imagine this story you're telling being a perfect mirror of every one of those. You don't go and, dude, I can go places in Oakland, those cats can't go in Oakland. You should see the movie Blind Spotting, by the way. Incredible film about exactly what we're talking about. 2018 is ending here. That's one of the best films of 2018, Blind Spotting, an Oakland film. Another one, of course, Sorry to Bother You, check that out. So continue. So you're right, this is a metaphor for lots of places now.
Yeah.
Right?
And
So, and they're not even talking.
Yeah.
So what do? What you just described you doing, every one of these people is now doing with, throw the headphones on, go like this, go get my shit and get out. So there's no dialogue happening anywhere. Which just makes each group more and more desirous to fuck you then, you know.
You know, and the African American black population, people of color, like if you wanted to see Hispanics, you had to go to St. Paul, which was south. That was where it was this weird little town, this country town. A buddy of mine grew up there. Where they had the rodeo. That was a good. That's all you know. And it was Hispanic and Russian. It was a weird little amalgam. So you want to get Mexican food, you had to go down there. There was a few little places northeast in Portland where there were some Hispanics, but you know they were the minority. And the blacks were such a small minority. It was weird. And you know, like I said, well,
there the minority would be the minority. The term we're using is even ridiculous, but. Between 1848, when the guy found the gold at Sutter's Mill, 1848, not that long ago. At that point, there were 33 languages between Sutter's Mill, Northern California, and Canada. And what they did was they shoved all the natives and pushed them into, and took all of the 49ers, you know, I'm talking about that era. So the nigger, if you will, of there was the natives. And you may have seen that. Right? But they just jammed tribes together to live in shitty fucking conditions, and then they were the working class, uneducated, black, lower, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but in Oregon, it was weird because if you went to Seattle, they have a huge Asian population.
Right, because you're right.
And like, you know, the Chinese food.
Vancouver, Seattle, all those Hong Kong Chinese.
Yeah, you know, like, Chinese food, Japanese food, Filipino food, all of it, you know, even, you know, it was just great because they had these huge, vibrant communities. Portland, which is 3 hours away.
Right.
Nothing. It was, you know, because...
The people don't want to live there.
No, I can't remember what it was. There was a time period when they brought in all of these Chinese to build like the roads and railroads. And when it was done, they're like, get out. And so they all moved to Seattle. The same thing with a lot of the blacks. They just pushed everybody out. So it was this little white, you know, backward town where everybody was happy. You know, it's like, oh, we got our work done, so don't get them out. We're just gonna live here now. And it was weird because I moved there thinking that I was going into this open-minded, growing, you know, like
West Coast hippies.
You know, it was like because I was coming from Austin and I was looking for something similar, but something a little different. And when actually in '95 when I first got there, it seemed like that was happening. But as the years went on, it got worse. And I left in 2001.
Okay.
And by that time, it was.
Well, then starts the new era. Which
it wasn't even really. The time I moved in '95 and I left in 2001, so I was there for 6 years. I experienced more racism in those 6 years than I did in my entire life going through the Deep South in Texas.
Wow.
And just blatant, open racism. I'm like, I had never been called digger so many times. And I got
That's more than in Alabama
Yeah, yeah.
or Texas we're talking about.
that everybody thinks is just the most worst place in the world. And I was running one time in my neighborhood, my hippie, groovy little neighborhood, and these two little white kids playing in their parking lot and goes, "Hey, nigger," and I was like, "Did that just happen?"
How old are the kids?
They're about 4 and 7, and I'm like, and it was just bizarre.
Yeah.
I used to go to shows. I was a rockabilly guy, and I remember the first rockabilly show I went to in Portland, which I didn't realize.
Were you the only black person in the room?
I was the only black person in Portland, dude. It was like everywhere I went, I was the only black guy anywhere. There was maybe if there was a reggae band, there was like maybe 2 guys in the band, but everybody, it was just white. It's a white town.
Yeah.
And
I've been the only Indian in so many places.
Yeah, and so I go to this show. It's Tiricon, which is like the punk rock club, to see this band is called the Jackals. They were the Portland, Oregon rockabilly band back in the 80s, the only one that was there at the time because there was no rockabilly music there when I got there. And which is really weird because
you'd think with that community, right?
Half of the band is Hispanic.
Huh.
But all of their fans are ex-neo-Nazis.
What?
And I'm like,
what is happening?
Or neo-Nazis and ex-neo-Nazis. Because I went there and, I'm wearing, my little uniform, khakis, pair of, Doc Martin 3 holds, and white t-shirt and a military jacket.
Sure.
Just what I wore in Portland every day of in Austin, every day of my life.
Right.
And at the time,
occasionally a bandana.
Oh, I had a shaved head because there's no barbers and there was a single black barber.
You did that too, but you'd have occasionally a bandana. I remember.
And so I show up at this this bar and I'm like, it was literally about 3 blocks away from my house because I live downtown, and I'm like, let's go check this band out. And I'm sitting there at the bar and these 2 cats come up to me. There's one white guy, one black guy, there's another black guy. Both skinheads. And they're like, "Hey, you skin?" I'm like, "Nah, dude. Why?" They're like, "Well, it's just because the way you were dressed, we thought you were skin." And I'm like, "Nah, dude, I'm just here to see the band." And they're like, "Well, you might want to hang out with us."
Why, because they were skins?
And I'm like,
the black guy was?
No, yeah. And I'm like, "Well, what do you mean?" They're like, "Well, there's a lot of boneheads here, and we're sharps," which is like their mortal enemy. It's like Doctor Doom and and Spider-Man. And so these guys are like Lucifer and Superman. These guys they just hate each other. There's the boneheads are the neo-Nazis, and there's the sharks who are the anti-racist skin. And so they're like, "Well, you might want to hang with us because if any goes down, we can have your back." Which was cool from their part because they didn't have to do crap for me.
Well, no, right.
But it's like, so.
But also says that that's been going on long enough to develop a whole freaking community of response.
Well, I didn't even realize that this was a thing.
Yeah, right.
And I consider myself a fairly worldly person, and here I find myself into this weird microcosm of what people thought was reality, and I'm having to deal with crap that I thought was done.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, that's weird, and sure enough, there was a bunch of, and as the years went by, the rockabilly scene grew a little bit more, and, I was still really big into it, and most of the dudes I met in the whole rockabilly scene in Portland were all ex-Nazi dudes. Straight up, all had neo-Nazi tattoos, those dudes were not, that was what they went from being skinhead to Nazi.
Wow.
And skin a Nazi to rockabilly guy. So they grew out their hair, they greased it back, and put on their motorcycle boots and.
So they were just looking for something to join.
Yeah, well they were still remember back in the 80s everybody had a tribe. The 80s was about having a tribe.
Hang on, time out. Yeah. I want to think about that.
Yeah.
That's a major change in conversation too. So let's just take a second.
Yeah.
And also you can take a break if you want. But that happens off.
Yeah.
Thing. But let's take a second there, because sometimes you ask a question and I have to think about whether I agree with that or not, or if I know.
Yeah.
Because that's asking a lot. When I got to Austin, I was so happy not to be here anymore. I was so happy, man, and I was real loose.
Yeah.
Real loose, and then I don't think, when I think of who my tribe was,
Mm-hmm.
if we're saying that's the case, I would be a Wes Mahler.
Yeah.
Because I was long hair and in with the humanities dudes and would sit with a bandana around the fountain in front of the Union.
Yeah.
Smoking cigarettes. A lot of us always smoking cigarettes, pretty much.
Yeah.
Gauloise.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Fucking smoking French cigarettes.
I know.
Right? I'm talking about Sartre or fucking whatever.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm not sure what my tribe was, because part of the thing was I'm a lone wolf, you know, you're not really...
Everybody thought in the 80s, they thought they were a lone wolf, but they were all part of this tribe. Okay. So like, see, I was punk rock guy. You know, it was like when I got to UT, I was Mr. Punk Rock. You know, I had my combat boots, my black jeans, my ripped t-shirts, and you know, my shaved head, you know, or mohawk. I had a mohawk at the time, and listen to hardcore punk. All I did. That's what I did for the first 2 years of college. Just sit in my room and listen to hardcore punk. I couldn't go drink anymore. But so that was my tribe. But everybody in that, and my buddy Nate, who was also he lives in Ohio now, and he was in a punk rock band back in '86. And he had a buddy who put it, he's like, we are the most...
So what are you talking about, the Cave? What club, where would you go?
Oh,
Continent? No.
Liberty Lounge. There's a bunch of little crappy little places that punk rock bands would play. But, you know, he's like, we were the most conformist, non-conformist there are. Because all those punk rock guys thought they were... we were individuals, but you had your uniform, you had your music you had to listen to, you had your code of conduct that you had to maintain, and you know, and you couldn't mix with anybody outside that area. So that's not being an individual. That's being part of the tribe. And you know, and you know, the same. There was the New Wavers. There was the.
Okay, I can accept what you're saying then, but I don't think I was in any. And I'll tell you what, I was proud of that. For example, I had a group of black friends that I would play basketball with.
Yeah.
Those guys and I would hang out sometimes. You know what I mean? And none of my white friends ever interceded with that little weird group that I would hang with, or that I would go hang with the nerds to do something, or I was much more interested in kind of seeing and exploring all the tribes than having one of my own. But I think I can totally agree with you that they all existed, you know, and they didn't really interact.
Yeah, it was a weird 80s phenomenon, and you know, I think it was, and like I said, it was really, really connected to music. Because
I can see that. Totally see that.
Music,
well, yes, exactly right.
Oh
my God, totally right.
Yeah.
That's where you're right. So you could have that new wave scene, which was huge back then, right? New wave was the thing you weren't, for example. Well, right, yeah. And you and I could navigate each tribe. I think that happened for sure.
Yeah, when I toned down the punk rock thing, you know, that's when I.
When I think about the women I dated, each of them had a different tribe that they were in.
But it's like I said, and that's why I mean UT. At the time, had 50,000 people at it, but I was there for 10 years, and I saw the same 50 people. You know, I was there when John Hamm was there. Don't remember? I'm sure we ran cross paths. I was there when Matthew McConaughey was there. Don't remember? You know, I was there when was it Rebecca Zellweger was there? Yeah. And I mean, all these people. Yeah, Renee.
She dated. Remember Raj?
Yeah.
Raj watches this, I think, but once in a while. Raj's friend, the South African dude, who had the dog, who was here illegally, and he was always real morose or whatever. That was Renee's boyfriend, I remember. So I met her like twice or something.
Yeah. Well, it's crazy because, you know, these people were there.
What was that dude's name, the fucking South African guy? He was always morose, and he lived with his dog. He was a sad sack, you know?
Yeah, I don't remember. Did he work at Amy's?
He didn't work at Amy's.
Okay, that's what I know.
That was a whole nother
thing. a whole nother tribe.
They were all mods, They were all mods. That whole group was mods.
Yeah.
They had stuff in their hair all the time.
Yeah, see, that was...
Pursed lips.
Yeah.
Their thing was pursed lips, and like fucking the thing they make fun of in the Zoolander. Their whole thing was to be like that. You know? Like,
it was. Everybody had their thing that they did, and I remember being so tied to that musical identity that, and my buddy and I talk about this all the time. Is remember back in the '80s, if somebody said, yeah, you know, I listen to Bruce Springsteen, and you're like, why, man? That's crap. Bruce Springsteen's crap, dude. Why would you listen to that garbage? You know, and it was so weird because it was just wasn't that it was bad. It was just wasn't what my tribe was to do, so it couldn't be good.
Right. And now looking back at that, like saying that about New Order, I can remember saying about sure, it's ridiculous. Plenty of stuff.
It's dumb. But we held on because that was our identity.
Our club doesn't like your club.
So I can't have you talking. You can't have anything outside my identity.
Oh my god.
I mean, I'm
so
glad that
freaking
kids
ridiculous,
don't
man.
really have that nowadays. It's a little more
It's
mixed.
way more. I think.
But
That's great. Actually.
but it sort of formed. It formed this allegiance, man. It's like I could go. You could go to any town if there was a college there, and you could find your tribe.
Yeah.
And you would be accepted.
I agree with that. And I traveled a lot too.
Yeah.
I pulled
And it was
that
cool.
off.
It was great. And it was
Yeah.
easy. But now it's like you go somewhere and you're by yourself. You're gonna be all by yourself.
Right.
It's just weird. And so I kind of missed that. But like I said, it didn't really lend itself to open-minded thought.
I see what you're getting at.
Because you get because like I said, if it's outside your realm of belief or outside your little tribe, it was wrong.
That's
And
fascinating.
you hated it.
That's fascinating. Like, you've really done a great job of elucidating that. I've never thought about that way, and that's a great way to look at it. And it influences so much that comes after, if you think about it. But then the fractionalizing of that is the direct result of the digital iteration.
Yeah.
Now everything's equal together. Bruce Springsteen's right next to New Orleans.
Yeah.
It's all done. And so the complete fluidity of data is what has changed their thing, their trip,
Yeah, well, I love now, because, everybody looks at the 80s through this rose-colored
Oh my
lens.
god, I hate that.
And
this town is crazy about it. They play 80s music everywhere.
Yeah, and it was a great time in my life.
If you were white.
Yeah, well, the thing is, like,
I'm gonna try those on.
it's funny because,
Sorry.
the 80s, what they think was the 80s was not the 80s.
Right.
Because
I agree with
it's
that.
like, hey, let's have an 80s party. So everybody dresses up in neon, the girls cut their hair, and the dudes, all pop their collars, and it's like, this is 80s. I'm like, no, that was not the 80s.
Right.
The 80s was feathered hair, half t-shirts, scrawny dudes in white jeans, with white tennis shoes and jeans that went up to their navel. Who called you a fag if you look different? Hey, fag, what's going on?
Right.
And I remember getting it because I used to have a pair of because it was like the big punk rock thing at the time was wearing a baseball cap, like a fitted baseball cap of your favorite team.
Okay.
I had my LA Dodgers and my Notre Dame cap or whatever.
All right.
And I just
There's
remember
people burping coming out of that.
I just remember walking down the street and having some dude in a grayed out Camaro go, hey, fag! Because I looked different. Because I had a hat on. Because people didn't wear hats out and about. It was just stupid. And then, but that's what the 80s was.
Yeah.
And people, so whenever it's like, hey, let's have an 80s party, I'm like, so whenever I have a show, if I'm going to show up at an 80s party, that's what I show up as some Hesher did with with my white tennis shoes and
Sure.
Yeah. It's a great Portland term. That's what I haven't. I got there that because we called them.
Was that movie set there?
No, but it was. I think it was set in the Pacific Northwest though.
Okay.
But it was we called them burnouts or heads. That's what we called them in Texas. They're a head. I remember in high school. Oh, that's where the heads.
Oh,
are.
a head.
Yeah, but in Portland it was a Hesher. And it's such a much better term. I love that
man, it completely makes sense to me now. You completely educated me.
Yeah, I love that. It's such a great term, Hesher. Because we used to go, a buddy of mine, this German buddy of mine, we used to go see this band, this Judas Priest cover band called British Steel. And they used to play at this little old theater called the Ritz.
All right.
And whenever and it was just such an odd thing because Portland was such a hippy dippy little town and everybody was into whatever, world music, whatever. So you go to this, you got those dudes from the 80s back in Portland who are still living that dream. Dudes with mustaches and the shag haircut poured down the middle.
Yeah.
They're still living. They're stuck in '86, man. They're like, this is a great time for me, man. I'm never giving that up. But they were all cool. I mean, I've never had a trouble with a Hesher. I mean, like we used to go.
Sure,
even when I lived in Portland, in Austin.
Yeah.
We would go to that club out on Riverside. There'd be some punk rock shows, and sometimes but there was a bar there, and then there was I can't remember the name of it. But it was a bar in the front. And then they had a music venue with a bar in the back.
Okay.
So if there was a lot of times punk rock bands that play over there, and so you go there, and you'd have to walk the gauntlet of the Heshers because those dudes would all just be hanging out. It was a heavy metal club.
Yeah, right.
But those dudes were cool. They never had a problem with those dudes. I mean, I remember when I was 27, we went to a New Year's party over on Riverside, and it was a Hesher party, dude, and those dudes just welcomed us like we were one of them, and it was great. Like you,
Yeah.
you know, but you know, on next to campus, if I had showed up at a frat party, I would have crap kicked out of me. So it was just a weird mixture. But you know, but
Okay, so let me respond with a couple of things to. First of all, I'm gonna have you take a break from talking.
Yeah.
And no, I love it, but I'm learning that for this thing to work, it's cool to have.
Yeah.
My problem is I just sit here and do what you're doing. I just
Yeah.
So some interplay. But I'm thinking about what you're saying, and I would say that when I came here, I was freaked out, very freaked out by what this place was. And then when I got to Austin, you were like one of the first black friends I ever had in my life. I've told you this. We discussed this earlier. I've known Orice, say, 30 years, 31, 32 years. Like a friend. You know what I mean? I didn't have any friends who were black, and I live in a predominantly Latino town and black town. You know, there's a lot of people of color here, and I live in the whitest part of the town, in a suburb on the whitest part of the area, and my dad was trying to found a university, so he was just busy building the UTSA, and I was going to the school, and I was like, what is happening? I really was freaking out, because you have to remember every 3 years, I was flying to India, spending the summer in India with all my family and people, and they were all asking me stuff, and I'm like, I don't know, these people are... I was real uncomfortable, man. And then I went to California, and I was like, oh, I thought the Bay Area was... Instantly, I felt at home. Instantly. And of course, the changes in the Bay Area, blah, 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 blah. For me, the feeling of it getting better was coordinated with those moves. So like you going from Alabama to Austin and then having this microcosm thing happen, I was going India, Texas, now Texas, California. Oh, super best time of my life was 94 to, I was there. I wish you and I would have been able to connect, but to say 99 in the Bay. I moved to New York in 97, but I was back and forth between the Bay and New York so much those 2 years because she was still there and I was doing whatever I wanted and whatever. That was the best. And then my thing was, here's what happened to me. I know this happened to you, so I'm going to tell it this way, and I'm thinking you'll be able to vibe, is that I'll never forget that feeling in 1997 where I'm sitting there, and in San Francisco at that time, I am actively involved in the painting of large murals. I'm DJing with a group of guys living in a house, and we're going out as a group. I have every connect I could possibly want in the city of San Francisco. I don't pay to go anywhere. I'm invited to any after party I want to go to. I have access to everything I want, and as an artist, I'm so unhappy because every morning at 10:30, I'm sitting at a table of artists having brunch. And we're all going, well, I wish we could make this happen. Oh, I wish we could make that happen. Gee, how come there's nobody buying art? How come there's nobody buying art? And it always concludes, well, then you got to move to New York. Well, you got to move. What do you mean? All I want is to make art and sell it. There's 50 galleries here. Why is this not happening? No, then you got to move to New York. Then you got to move. And then, like an idiot, at the age of 30, I just said, well, then fuck it. And I tore it all down, and I moved to New York. And it was one of those moves I'm proud of. That I do think it's important to do this. And I know you've done this. It's important to do that. That's what refreshes the mind, is making gutsy moves that may not have any meaning, you know? And then when I went to New York, and this is the thing I've never said before, what you're making me realize is, it felt like it was backward. It felt backward. The city of New York felt backward. Their coffee was crap. They drink this shitty little coffee in these paper cups, and everybody drinks it because we're all New Yorkers. The biggest tribe of all is that fucking city. Well, we're all New Yorkers. We all drink this. We all do this. We all talk like this. We all root for our thing. And I was like, you people are idiots. I've had this refinement, sexy life in the Bay, man, at this point. I'm drinking the best coffee, Pete's, you know, and I'm like, we're eating food. We're doing all stuff that now New York is catching up on San Francisco. And so the 5 years I'm in New York, I'm like, oh, man. I used to tell them, they'd say the first year, you know, they ask you, they don't really give a shit, but they ask you the first year, hey, so what do you think of New York? You know? And I'd always say, I think it's really provincial. And I go, yeah, well, see, provincial means you only care about your province. And you guys only care about these 5 boroughs. You don't care about any story. I was calling the most cosmopolitan city in the world provincial, right, to everybody I meet, you know? So that's what, so maybe that happened too. I was going back into the conservative guts of the East Coast mentality. And I had gotten all loose and free from being in Austin and on the West Coast, right? So when I say 98, 99, making art any way I wanted, I lived in a great spot. I had things the way I wanted, and I was saying the provocative stuff I'm saying even now, then, and it was sexy. It was cool. I was in people's faces saying the stuff. And then bang, the violent events. And then the shutdown of everything to conservative right-wing militant nonsense, accompanied with fixed elections, the FISA, the Patriot Act, and now it's all just been shitty since. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
So when I'm describing that 98, 99 that started this conversation, I'm saying that felt killer. I felt like, hey, even white folks are with me. We're going to make America, the millennium's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
I totally felt like the millennium was going to be awesome.
Yeah. That's why.
And instantly, bang, war.
Yeah.
Oh wait, they did that before, 1968, right?
Yeah.
Bang, war.
Yeah.
So there's a habit with a certain crew. Right when you think it's getting free?
Yeah.
67, 68, the world's dead. Nuh-uh. Bang, kill all three of them.
Yeah.
War.
Yeah.
99, you're starting to feel like, oh, shit's going to be good. Bang, war.
Yeah.
Now that's fucked up. That to me, that's in our lifetime, I'm
Yeah.
saying. Now, you and I know a little history. That's the thing. We know probably more history than most people from miles from where we're sitting, because we both studied and read about it. We're describing things in our lifetime.
Yeah.
How many more of those? Going through the 450 years of colonialism.
Yeah.
Going through all the things we're talking about. Right when it matters, because we feel like we're finally getting the freedom you're telling us we can have. No, bang, war.
Yeah.
How many times has that move been played?
Yeah, it's the United States, what we do.
You know what I'm talking about?
That's why in a land, because if you think about it, in the northern hemisphere where we live, and if you add Central America, Mexico, Caribbean, and then in the Western Hemisphere we live in? Yeah. Eastern.
Sure.
Yeah.
You could say Western Hemisphere.
We're the only bastion of whiteness that there is. Us in Canada. Everything else is brown.
Right.
South America's brown, Central America's brown, Mexico's brown.
And America's getting browner. The point is, US is getting browner.
And if you really want to think about it, southern United States is brown, and eastern south of the United States is brown. The bastion of cosmopolitan New York is a mixture of everything.
Yeah.
So there's really only one little spot.
Wyoming, Utah,
and this
Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, and there's just so few people even living there.
And those are the ones that are.
And they have 2 senators each.
And they make policy. And they're the ones that.
Omaha, Nebraska.
Yeah, and it's really, really bizarre because
Jackson Hole,
you would think the
Wyoming.
brown people would be in charge,
Yeah.
but they, using as you said, the British model of keep everybody against each
That's
other,
right.
and you maintain power.
Yeah, they did that to us for
That's what we do. That's what we've been doing. That's what we've been doing forever. And whenever anybody gets any ideas of greatness or start to leave their place.
Uppity.
Yeah.
Start getting uppity.
Yeah. And so we
bang,
we have to do something to make sure that they never get a total, and we lose our place in power. And I hate to say this because I really when it comes to race, I don't care about anything. I'm not.
No, well, there is no such thing as race.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
I can have sex with every one of these so-called races, and we can have a child. Hence, there is no race. There's human race. It's the most transparent method to divide people.
As a black man, I am more genetically related to a white man in Omaha, Nebraska, than I am to a black person in Africa. Because of the migration and
number of years.
You had 10,000 years of that migration. The group that left and made the races, we're all related. Those people in Africa that stayed, I got nothing to do with them because once the migration stopped, they all are bred and we all bred. Right. So I got more in common with them than I do with them. Yeah.
The diaspora is your point, that it's different because it's a diaspora.
Yeah.
Well, this has been my crisis as an immigrant. Yeah. Because I am purely, totally Tamil Brahmin.
Yeah.
And there's no gene in my pool that's from anywhere else than Tamil Brahminism. Yeah. And so when my parents brought me here and said, well, you can enter this, and because they invited us and we're educators, you can participate however you want. That's been a crisis for me. Yeah. Because then arriving and seeing it for what it is, and the more I dig, the more fucked up it is. The less I want to contribute to its bottom line. The less I want to just, so if I just paint myself white, talk white, like in Sorry to Bother You, the movie that my buddy Boots Riley made, you gotta see it. Hey, I'll just whiten up everything, and then I can be rich, and I can go work on Wall Street like that. Yeah. I don't want to do that. But wait, then, so there's a constant intersection between my intellect wanting to participate and make things better, and me racially saying I'm uncomfortable with supporting a fundamentally flawed corporation, not a country, founded on a genocide and the slavery of millions of people. If I'm given the choice to choose because I was born over there and I'm just sitting here, I'm sorry, I'm gonna opt out.
Yeah.
By the time it's done, I'm gonna leave. So it's an awkward state.
Yeah.
Because I love the United States. I do. I have tons of friends and people here, and I love jazz, and I love music, and I love art, and I love a lot about the United States of America. None of this has anything to do with how much I love the United States of America. Because I do. I've traveled 44 of the 50 states. I have lived in a lot of cool places. I've experienced things that when I go abroad, I'm like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, you just can't do what we get to do back here, right? There's just way too much. So I'm not saying anything about any of that.
Yeah.
I'm saying that in 98, 99,
Yeah.
you had me. I was voting, I was participating, I was active, I was totally in it because I still believed in it.
Yeah.
And then between 1999, then 9/11, we could talk about that another day, then the wars in reaction, then the folding up of all my white friends who were kind of with me, oh no, just go along to get along. And then the 2008 recession, well, now we really just got to go along to get along because none of us has any money, right?
Yeah.
Wait, not none of us, wait, 1% has all the money. Wait, how did that happen?
Yeah.
Oh shit, it just happened overnight. Okay, well now we're just in it. Well, let's grow our own food and start our own... What the... I'm very upset about this. The millennium has been a joke.
Yeah. Well, it's really weird because what you're saying, now that we were talking about this, is that when I moved to Portland back in 95, and I remember when people would ask me, what's Portland like? And I would always say, hey, you remember like when we first got to Austin back in the early 80s, how it seemed like anything could be possible. Like you literally could do anything.
Yeah.
And
I definitely.
And like, that's what drew me to Portland. But now that we're talking about it, I realize it wasn't just Portland that was that way. It was when I talk about how when we're talking about how that feeling of optimism,
participation,
yes,
like
we're
all in it together.
When it
felt
started,
like we're all really...
when it started to wane, it was parallel. What I attributed to Portland was just what was going on. But I was just so isolated. But now that looking back, it was just how everything started to go. It wasn't. I mean, Portland was great because it was, like I said, it was so, to use your word, provincial. Because it was great. It was,
And it's beautiful out there.
And it was.
But they didn't have to be that. It could also be versions below that, where right when it feels like it's gonna, but somebody with money comes and says, well, no, it can't be that way.
Yeah.
You're getting
and that's what happened. What you're feeling was maybe on a smaller scale, but that's what happened in Portland. And I always attribute to just of the gentrification. But now that we're talking about it, and I'm realizing that it was a worldwide phenomenon. It was wasn't just that little area I was living in. It was just how society started to go. And people didn't like that feeling of I don't want to say non-structured, but of uncertainty. People didn't like that uncertainty.
No, but they've propagandized them into that.
Yeah, but the thing is, like,
they're so pathetic now.
That was the
Americans
great thing about
are so pathetic.
But that was the great thing about that time. There was so much uncertainty, but it was, you could do. I mean, because I remember in that time, you could do anything. You could be anything. It's like if you had a college degree, or if you didn't have a college degree, if you went to, what, I'm gonna be a horse groomer. Boom. You find a place that has horses. Talk to some dude. You're a horse groomer.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm gonna start my own business. Boom. You just get somebody with a little bit of capital. You didn't need that much. It was a time of, because that was coming off the heels of the whole punk rock thing, the do yourself, DIY mindset, and everybody was still living that. But then that group that hated that free thought was like, nah, we can't let this go, man. And so they started. Yeah,
but then also they took the cheer with them, man. It's not cheerful anymore.
No, it
everybody's butt hurt over stupid things.
Yeah, well,
everybody's full of hate. They're haters, not players.
Yeah.
And so we have this is the majority of it.
Yeah.
Ugly noise of criticism and negativity. Look at the guy in the way. He's a perfect example of what we have.
I still can't figure out that.
Elected a troll because we are trolls. We've become a nation of just like, it's not cheerful anymore. Yeah. I'm so much more cheerful when I get to India, man. India's cheerful. Everybody's freaking. I'm not trying to make it. I'm not trying to sound idiotic here, but I'm so much more cheerful in other places.
Well, that's why.
And basically, all the cheer is gone.
Yeah. Well, that's why I love Argentina so much, and Argentina and Chile, because those places weren't touched by that. Like, I mean, Argentina was, when I went to Argentina.
Chile's booming.
Yeah, well, the time I went to Argentina, it was right after the collapse of their economy.
Yeah.
And that could have been the biggest crap hole in the world, but that wasn't, people just, it didn't happen.
Right.
The countries, and it's because they have, I think maybe it's because they have such a huge independent identity away from the rest of the world.
Right. See,
Argentinians are Argentinians.
Yeah.
It's like we're like,
they're not on the UN map.
Yeah, we don't care about what you're doing. We're doing it our way because we're Argentine. We know better.
Yeah.
But that's a great place to be.
Yeah.
Because it was always I never had to during that really bad period in the United States. I was away from. I got to experience it.
Me too.
At a distance.
I left.
And it was great.
Okay, but then what you're bringing up is a great. This is gonna make us full circle, and we're into the second hour now, so we can wrap it up too. I mean the show part, and we can continue to hang out there. Maybe go get some lunch. You know what I mean?
That'd be cool.
But I want to. This is a nice way to bring it full circle because what you're saying right now makes me realize that I have longed to be in a tribe. I think that most of my thing that I've been doing is I love learning so much that I'm willing to learn all these different tribes, and I'll sometimes get super into them for a really long time because I just love learning all about it.
Yeah.
But then I get bored of that,
Yeah.
and I want to go explore something else.
Yeah.
So I just keep jumping because of my thirst or curiosity.
Uh-huh.
But inside me, there's an eternal desire
Yeah.
that I've never really identified until we talked about it just now.
Yeah.
That I think I really do kind of want to belong to something. And that thing I want to belong to is this imaginary thing that I thought the U.S. was going toward, right? I thought we were all going toward that, right? That's what I'm realizing.
That's
the
true.
tribe I wanted to be in
Yeah, it doesn't exist anymore.
has just gone into this fucking toilet. It's gone into this like fucking retarded toilet run by a slumlord.
Yeah.
So what do you do at that point,
Yeah.
I don't know what to do.
I really don't even know what to do. I know that I know that now I work on and to bring it back to the whole spirituality thing. The best. I was thinking about this today. There's that guy that Indian mystic I was telling you about, Sadhguru. He was saying that as animals, we have the same processes, physiological processes,
Right, yeah.
that any other mammal has.
Yes.
The thing that separates us from the animals is that we have the ability to choose our state of emotion. And I had spent a lot of my life being unhappy because I wanted what you're talking about to be back again. I've been searching for that for years, and whatever, I keep trying to go back to my old tribes to see because I want that.
Oh
back.
man! That never works. It never works.
I've been to old punk rock shows. I've been to rock. I tried.
You get like 2 minutes of it. You get
and it's like
2 minutes of it.
And but the reality situation is, I have to be my own tribe, man. That's
same.
I have to be my own tribe, and that's all right. That's cool. We don't. The whole need for tribe was something that was forced upon us by society anyway. So we don't really need it.
I agree.
Really need it. And I know when you're younger, you don't have the.
But then the desire to join tribeship is what we were talking about squanching now.
Yeah.
I need to squanch that.
You don't need to.
It's a false plant in my head.
You just have to give it a new perspective.
Right, but I'm saying that is embracing being a lone wolf, embracing being a lone intellectual, embracing being able to move between places but never really being.
Well, the thing is, I mean,
it
sounds corny and hokey, but we're all the tribe, dude. It's like there's no need to.
Yeah, but there's knuckleheads in charge.
There's no need to, and that's the thing is like, what the dude was saying, that it doesn't matter you are the one that's in charge of how that person affects you.
Yeah, right.
So if it's like,
I avoid it.
You can be cool, and I've been in places where I'm around. Like was ever before, those neo-Nazis.
Yeah.
I had great times with those dudes, man. They were, once you got over their weird ideological.
Yeah, but I don't know how you could get over that. I guess you just don't talk about it. You're just never. What do you meet them for coffee on Monday morning? What'd you do over the weekend? And they go, beat the shit out of an Ethiopian dude and kill him.
But the thing is, the problem is, don't, when we're together, I don't care what you believe. That's not my problem. I'm not in charge of how you think.
Right.
But I mean, I am in charge on how I react and how you are to me.
Right.
And none of those guys ever treated me poorly.
That's interesting.
And that's odd. I always expected one of them to go off on rogue and and go off the deep, but those dudes were, and it just goes to show that whole ideology that everybody grasps onto doesn't make you who you are. Who you are as a person is not what you believe in.
Correct.
But people want it to be, because it's a simple way to see it. A simple way to see that.
All right.
So I've learned, and I'm sure you have the same thing. You meet people, and if you can let go of your prejudices and ideological problems
right.
and just take that person for who that person is,
Yes.
you will generally have a really good interaction with that person.
Yeah, I think people are good too.
And then the thing is, like, so that's how I approach it now. It's like,
I get that, but I can't suffer idiots though.
Oh no, I don't.
So my problem is when I'm doing that.
So
if I'm being so generous as to do that, and then they're an idiot, a racist, bigoted idiot.
But I don't have to put myself in that situation. If I'm
right, so they never were racist, bigoted idiots around you.
No.
That's what they did.
Yeah.
In a way, that's cool.
That's
right?
cool, man.
That was like them looking.
And I also see it as the fact is, I know a lot of their racism and stupidity comes from a lack of. From not even knowing any black.
Right. So did they ask you questions about stuff?
Yeah.
They were also like asking me about what is
and because it was something that they just didn't know about.
Yeah.
And when they learned
4-year-old and 7-year-old yelling.
So if nothing else, there's a group of dudes who used to hate minorities or black people who at least have one black guy that they could look back and say,
that's awesome.
Cool.
Right. Yeah. Well, that I've played that role for a few people.
Yeah.
That helps. That's like the lubricant. That's social lubricant that makes some of this a little bit better.
Yeah, well, I hate neo-Nazis, but I know that these guys, regardless of doing whatever stupid shit, crap they believe in, they were at their heart good people. Yeah. Because they, that's what most people just want to live their life, have their kids, and not have to worry about getting killed or robbed. That's pretty much everybody.
Yeah.
Or some version of that. So, I mean, I'm not saying that Nazis are good, and I'm not saying that I want to hang out with Nazis.
No, I get it.
But I know that if I ever limit myself from actually interacting with those people on a positive level,
then you're doing.
I'm doing myself a disservice.
Yeah, I agree. And the ideas that we're talking about are a disservice.
Yeah.
Right.